Hey guys, what is going on? This is Travis P11. I'd like to welcome you back to the channel, and today we're going to do a little cleaning, a little field strip and disassembly and cleaning of the 6.5 Carcano Rifle. You're seeing these carbines popping up now on a lot of places like classicfarms.com and so on, and they're selling for about $249. A lot of people are picking these up cheap. And the good news is that they're fairly easy to take apart and clean. In fact, they use some design features from a few more popular rifles from the era, and they've incorporated them into this design. In my opinion, the bolt on this particular rifle is a lot easier to disassemble and clean than even the Mosin Nagant. So if you just bought one of these and you need to get it cleaned up, you're in the right place. And let's talk about what's necessary for the cleaner. What are some of the basics that you could use if you want to do so? I like to have a bore light, some rubber gloves, an old bore brush, or you could use, if you have like an old toothbrush sitting around, you can use it. Otherwise, these are just basic soft gun cleaning brushes. A short cleaning rod that we can use for getting inside the receiver. Some Q-tips. We've also got some gun tube lube, which you can buy from guntube.org. Check it out. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, $12 for a 4-ounce bottle delivered, which is a really good deal. Regular screwdriver. Now you can use 6.5 Creedmoor bore brushes if you want to. I've got a real avid bore snake chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. You can use that in the 6.5 Carcano, although the ammunition is not interchangeable. And then also we've got some cotton patches that you can use. Now you can also cut up an old cotton t-shirt if you have one. That will work too. And with that being said, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing we'd like to do is just go ahead and verify that the firearm is in fact unloaded. Go ahead and lift up the bolts. Open it up, check the chamber. Okay, we are empty. Go ahead and pull the trigger and remove the bolt by pulling it straight out of the back, and we will move on to our next step. All right, so your bolt disassembly is very, very easy. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and decock the bolt. So if your bolt looks just like this, kind of let you see all the different angles of it. All you have to do is simply grab on the back and pull and release. It's kind of like a Mosin Nagant. And then right here you've got a little spring button, okay, spring activated button. What you're going to want to do is push down on that and turn, and this nut will come off the rear of your bolt assembly. All right, we'll go ahead and just set that off to the side and move on to our next step. Go ahead and remove the rear of the bolt. And we have a little cutout right here. Okay, there's a little notch right there. We want to take off the safety portion of the bolt itself. So what you want to do is you're going to want to push on the safety, so that little tiny spur right there moves over into the channel and then moves out. So you can, I'm kind of doing this at an awkward angle, but you just go ahead and pull and it's going to slowly make its way out. Okay, go ahead and pull it towards the bottom here, and the whole mechanism is going to come apart. Go and take out your little spring, take out your firing pin and your housing. Okay, it's disassembled. Let's go ahead and get busy cleaning. So for cleaning, I put just a little bit of gun tube lube CLP on a cotton patch, and we're going to go ahead and take off the spring from the firing pin. Let's go ahead and wipe that off. Now on this, you want to leave a very, very light coat of oil. In fact, you could basically just wipe it off with this patch and then hit it with a dry patch and you're good to go. That's going to essentially give it the protection that it's going to need for you to store it for the next time you take it out to the range. It's also a good time to inspect some of the pieces and excuse me, and make sure that there's no problems with them. So we're going to let this soak a little bit in some oil. We'll definitely dry everything off before we reassemble. All right, go ahead and wipe off the spring. If this is your first surplus rifle, congratulations. I think you got in at a pretty good deal. These are selling for, what I say, $249 as of September of 2020, which is not bad. It's one of the least expensive milsurp rifles out there that you can get these days. And they will appreciate in value, just like the Mosin Nagants that are now going for, $350. Occasionally, we see them pop up for under $300, but let's go ahead and wipe off the rear nut here of the bolt. Whoops. A little hard to do with rubber gloves. Really, really polished, shiny metal, so we're going to take that out. But again, it's a great opportunity to really get there and take a look at all the different pieces and see what's going on. So for this safety lever, I think what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of CLP on a Q-tip, and we're just going to run that down there and clean it out. Then we'll hit it with a dry Q-tip to get any muck out of there. And this one's pretty dry. I'm not seeing a lot of corrosion on here. There's definitely some wear, but we're talking about a very old rifle. That looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and hit it with the dry side, just get out any excess oil. I'm going to say that a lot because we don't want to leave too much oil on the bolt at all, because the last thing you want to do is have it gum up or foul up, especially if you get any kind of particles in it and gunk and stuff like that if you're taking it out to the range, or if you live in a really sandy environment or a dirty environment. Let's go ahead and wipe off the rear of the bolt. And I'm also going to take another Q-tip, and we're going to clean out the rear of the bolt itself, and then we'll hit it with the dry side when we get done. The idea is to not leave any residue behind. Again, if you do this, you should be able to store it pretty much indefinitely. I've got some rifles that I'm sitting on about maybe 3 or 4 years since I took them out last time, and they have no rust inside of them. I do keep some silica gel packets in my gun safe, which I think might help out a little bit with moderating the humidity. I change those out about every year or so. If you want to, you can use your bore brush and just scrub stuff down. Not your bore, I'm sorry, your regular brush, just your cleaning brush, and you can scrub stuff off if you want to. This just has just normal wear and abrasion like we see on a lot of older guns. It's just metal on metal contact. And the more times you clean it, obviously the easier it's going to be to clean the next time that you get it out. It's going to take a patch to the bolt. You shouldn't have to remove the extractor at all unless you've got some problems in case it's broken. And honestly, that'd be more of a gunsmithing video, which is not really what this is. This is just more about the basics of cleaning your Carcano and getting it ready for you to take it to the range. If you can find ammo, it's always the big part. The bolt face, it's always a good idea to give that just a little brushing. We're just going to put a drop of oil on here, and we'll definitely dry this off before we reassemble it. Give it a little scrub. And you can tell when you take a patch to it and wipe, you can see how much stuff comes off with it. It definitely tells you how dirty the rifle is or when the last time it was cleaned. This one's got, see, it's got some moderate wear on it. It's definitely been fired. Haven't even looked down the bore yet, so I can't tell you if it's shiny or not, but we'll take a look at it and try to get the camera down the bore so you can see it after we're done cleaning it, kind of a before and after. Hit that with the Q-tip, really get in there and scrub that. Make sure you've got it nice and dry when you get done. Don't want to leave any oil residue on that bolt face there. There we go. And let's go ahead and reassemble it. Oh, no, one thing real quick. We're going to take a patch and we'll run it down the cylinder, the rear here with a little bit of oil on it. Okay, we'll run through the back, and then we're also going to put a couple dry patches in here. This looks pretty crusty, so this might take a couple passes. So this is where your short cleaning rod comes in kind of handy. Now, if you just have like a traditional cleaning rod set with multiple segments, you know, that's certainly not an issue. You can use that if you want to. I like to use my little pistol cleaning rods when I do stuff like this. Really works well for getting in the receiver and cylinders and stuff like this. So go ahead and scrub that out a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how nasty this looks when we get it out. It's not too bad. Okay, let's go ahead and run a dry patch in there to dry it out. You don't want to leave any oil behind inside that cylinder. Again, you just need a minimal amount of lubrication inside the bolt on these firearms, if any at all. There we go. If you don't want to have any lubrication inside at all, that's fine. You can always just make sure the outside has a little bit of oil on it, and you really can't go wrong. There we go. Okay. So that's okay. We might run one more patch of oil through it and one more dry patch before we reassemble. And let's go ahead and move on to reassembly of the bolt. Alright guys, so reassembly of the bolt, here's what you want to do. You've got a little notch right there. Okay, go ahead and take your firing pin with its little spring, push it back in. You're going to want it, so when you do put it back together, this little cutoff right here where it's flat on the bottom, you want that looking just like this. You want that cut off across the bottom right there. See how everything lines up? You can move it if you need to once we get it put back together, but it's nice to have it set that way when you put it back together. All right, so we're going to put that spring in there. Okay, now let's take this little guy. This little cutout right here, this little notch is going to have to go into there when you put it back in. So go ahead and push it over as such. It's going to have a little bit of spring tension. It's going to go down that channel. Okay, you can lock into that little initial piece right there. Okay, and go ahead and push it all the way down so it locks into the notch right there. And at this point, you can take your firing pin and you can turn it so that, again, we go back to having this little flat piece going across the bottom, so it looks just like that. Okay, now what you want to do is go ahead and go. It's going to look just like this. If you do it the right way, everything's going to go together. It's going to look exactly like this when everything is lined up properly. Again, you have to have that flat cutout across the bottom so the rear will slide right across. You're going to screw this on, and then this little detent right here is going to catch and it's going to lock. There's going to be a little bit of play on the rear of the bolt. One time. Okay, you hear it click. Little springs right there. And then if you wanted to, you could recock it by simply pulling it back, and it'll lock into the little notch right there. Okay, it's almost like a Mosin Nagant. So you can lock it back into place if you need to, and that'll be part of the reassembly when we put the bolt back in the gun. I noticed that the screws here were pretty tight. I did put a couple little drops of oil, and that just kind of seeps down a little bit. Obviously, you don't want to, you know, break anything or strip anything, but a couple drops of oil really helped out with loosening up these screws, which I don't know the last time was that this thing's been disassembled. So we're going to go and pull the magazine well trigger guard off of the lower, or your receiver. So go ahead and pull this screw out, set that off to the side. I am really anxious to see what this thing is going to look like under the hood, so to speak, to see if it's all rusted or not, see if it's in pristine shape. Sometimes you get the original bluing, which is really cool. Okay, this rear screw is very tight. All right, we've taken that screw out. That's a much longer screw, so I don't think you can really mix those two up when you're reassembling it. So we've got the longer screw and the shorter screw right there, as you can see. You guys can see that. Oh, there you go. Rear screw, front screw. And let's go ahead and pull off that magazine well. Take a look at it. It's got some oxidation on there, so a little bit of rust going on. You can really give this a liberal coating of some CLP. We're going to hit this with a brush and really clean it up. Want to be very careful with it. Definitely want to make sure we get some oil down there in the pivot point for the stripper clip. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a nice clean off. Oh, and by the way, obviously your stock is going to start to separate itself from the receiver. So let's go ahead and take off the stock and receiver. We'll set the stock off to the side. There is your firearm, technically. All right, so grab yourself a patch, make sure you got some oil on it, and go ahead and wipe off those screws. We got the front screw first, the shorter one. Might have to go over this a couple times. This thing, it almost has like, the oil on it is so dirty, it's almost like a motor oil when it's coming off of here. Set that off to the side. Obviously, we'll wipe that off so it doesn't have such a heavy coating of oil on it when we're done. Go ahead and give a good little scrub to that rear bolt, and if you want, you know, you can also use your brush on this and really scrub it down, especially if you have any oxidation going on there. I really can't speak much about like refurbishing and rebluing and stuff like that. I'm just more of just basic maintenance and stuff like that. So let's go and start wiping off the handguard. Let's wipe off the outside. We're going to wipe off the inside. You can take your brush to the inside of it, really give it a good scrub, and we'll take off a lot of that oxidation. We're going to go through a lot of patches right now, I have a feeling. Yeah, this one was definitely overdue for a cleanup. If you have any, good refurbishing tips or anything like that, just make sure you chime in the video down below and let me know. So I'm going to go over this inside, outside gun oil. You all do the same. Going to dry it off, and we'll bring it back and see how it looks kind of before and after. All right, it took a lot of CLP, but we finally got it clean. Now, if this was mine, I'd probably take maybe like a quadruple lot, like a Brillo pad to it, just to maybe take off some of the light oxidation, but you'd want to be really careful with it. It's kind of in a phase where the bluing is starting to dissipate, and it's starting to go to that kind of that finished rough steel patina underneath there. So it's kind of an odd state. I would just basically clean it, keep it oiled and lubricated. You should be okay. A little bit of some frosting inside of here, some real light oxidation inside. I did take my light brush to it and scrub it out. Got all the pivot points all lubricated now, so it's nice and all set to go. So that looks pretty good. It looks much better than it did before. Before it was just almost like a complete, like just a little rusted piece of metal, but we're getting it back to the point that we'll have a nice presentable Carcano. All right, so depending on just kind of the overall condition of your firearm and how much wiping down and scrubbing it's going to need, we're just going to go ahead and wipe everything down with CLP on a patch, and then we're going to hit it with a dry patch and wipe it off. This little point right here where we have the whole trigger mechanism, you may want to put a little drop of oil right there, and right there. And on the other side, and then just work the trigger a couple times, get some oil into there. It's a very simple mechanism. We're not going to take it apart, but you could maybe pull on the trigger and wipe it off a little bit. We're going to go over everything, so we'll do an initial wipe down, and then we'll clean out the barrel. We'll take a look at the bore, and then we'll get it put back together. All right, so as we wipe everything down, I mean, just looking at the bluing on this thing, and it does look really, really nice. I mean, it is over. I'm going to dry it off here in just a second. There's a lot of oil on it, but the bluing is a little bit of wear on the top of the barrel right there, but overall looks just fantastic. So we've wiped everything off. We put a little bit of oil in those pivot points. A couple little things to note. Maybe put some oil on a Q-tip, put it down in the front and the rear screw holes. That'll help get your screws back in easier next time. And then something I like to do is to just go ahead and put a little gun oil on your single piece cleaning rod. Go in there and just kind of wipe off the inside of the receiver. Just get a little bit of lubricant in there, kind of get down there in the cylinder. Get down here towards your bore, okay? There we go. Get in there and kind of wipe it out a little bit and see what comes out on it. Now, once we reassemble it, we'll go ahead and run the bore brush down there. You can also hit this with the dry patch when you get done so there's no excess oil inside of it. But do make sure that everything's at least been wiped off at least one time. I know the inside of this was really dry and was starting to get a little bit of oxidation also. All right, let's go ahead and begin reassembly. All right, so we have just an initial amount of reassembly we got to do here before we go ahead and clean out the barrel. So we've got the stock just sitting in the gun holder here, in the vise. Just slip the upper receiver, your receiver back into your stock, as so. And when you flip it over, it's going to want to come out, so depending on what kind of a setup you have, it may or may not pop out while you're reassembling it. So we'll just set that like that. Take your nice clean magazine well and set it back down. Go ahead and hold on to it because it's probably going to try to pop out. Take your long bolt, put it in the rear. There we go. Give it just kind of an initial little torque there. Oh, that's definitely going in much better. You can tell that CLP is helping out tremendously. I'm really anxious to see if the bolt has sped up a little bit too, because the bolt was almost kind of gooey when I was taking it out. There we go. So go ahead and set that front screw in there, give it a few little twists. And let's go ahead and tighten it back down here. I like to do a little bit towards the front. Okay, then the rear screw a little bit too, just to kind of tighten it up about the same time. Doesn't really matter, but that's just what I do. Okay, more on the front there. That's as far as this screw is going to go. It kind of sticks up just a little tiny bit. We're not going to worry about that. We'll just leave it as is because that's how it was when we got it. I don't want to over tighten it. Okay, we'll give the front screw an adequate amount of tightening. Again, you don't want to strip them. Just get them so they're nice and snug. There we go. All right, go ahead and flip it over. And we're going to take the bore snake and begin cleaning out the barrel. A bit of an unusual angle, but you can see the bore. It's definitely got some crusties going on in there. It's kind of frosted. I don't know, that could just be lint that's in there. That could be dirt. So we're gonna run just a little bit of, we're gonna run the bore snake down this probably about 4 or 5 times. So hopefully we can actually see the rifling and the grooves in there, and we'll have a smooth, shiny bore. There's a gun light at the end of the breech, by the way, just so you know. Or a barrel light down there at the end. So let's go and get this cleaned out. So what I like to do, guys, is I like to put a little bit of oil on the front and the back of the bristles of the bore snake that I'm using. Now you can use, again, you can go rear to the front if you want to, if you're using a 6.5 Creedmoor bore brush. This is pretty simple though. I like this process. We're going to see how many pulls it takes to get this thing clean. If we can, there's a possibility that the bore could be so frosted over that it might take something a little more heavy duty. But for this just being a basic cleaning video, we're going to show you at least how to get that bore nice and shiny. There we go. Let's get this in the rear. Pull the bore snake through here. Oh, wow. That is a monster. Oh, whew. Man, she's tight. All right. There we go. Oh, there we go. Whew. All right. First one down. I'm going to do this 3 more times, then we'll shine the light down the barrel and see if it makes any difference. You guys hold tight. We will be right back. So I honestly don't know if this is going to show much like a before and after, but there is definite rifling in there now. You can see that, see the shine of the bore there, the little twist in the barrel. It's a little hard to get that to focus just because of the light, but it is nice and shiny, and I'm happy to report that we have rifling back and there is no pitting in this barrel. It looks fantastic. Took about 4 pulls through the barrel with a lot of CLP. Gun tube lube, the best for your tube. It definitely helped out this barrel. Look at that. That is freaking awesome. All right, let's go ahead and finish reassembly. All right, so we're going to put the bolt back in the firearm, and that'll officially finish up our reassembly. You can see how I have it situated. I believe it is cocked back into place as I showed in the reassembly video. It's not going to be the easiest thing to put back in there. There's a little peg here that runs along a channel underneath the bolt, so it's going to keep it really tight when you're putting it back into the receiver. So just go ahead and give it a little push. Go ahead and pull the trigger. That'll get it set initially, and then just pull the trigger while you push in, and eventually the tension will give, and you're all set to go. I'm also not going to dry fire because it is a really old rifle, but the bolt's not bad. I mean, it's a little bit tight. There's that tension from that peg down there, but it's definitely smoother than it was before. It's a nice action to it. Very cool piece of history. And again, the fact you can pick these up for $250 and potentially have a nice shooting rifle, I mean, that definitely is something that that's very cool. So shout out to the YouTuber and Patreon patron that loaned me this firearm in order to protect your identity. I'm not going to give your name out here in this video, but I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing that. Very cool rifle. It's awesome. I really do want to pick one up now, and especially at the price that they're going at. $249. If you don't have one, they are not going to get any cheaper as time goes on, I can guarantee it. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching through this whole video. Thanks for checking it out. You know, I make these videos for the beginner Carcano owner. I'm probably a little bit wordy, but I want to make sure we don't miss any details and just do it the right way. But that's it. So, guys, I want you to have fun, be safe, like, subscribe. Check out my podcast called Caliber Corner, which we do Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. We talk guns and ammo. We have a great time. Make sure you check it out over on YouTube. You can follow me on Gunstreamer, UGEtube, let's see, guntube.org, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those fun places. All those links are down below. And again, a shout out to SS Pawn. Guys, SS Pawn's been a long time supporter of the channel, so check out SS Pawn and they will take care of your firearms needs. All right, have fun, be safe, and as you know, we will talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.